The pen slipped from Nia Adebayo's fingers and clattered against the glass table, the sound sharp enough to slice through the silence of the room. Her chest tightened as she stared at the paper in front of her, at the two identical signatures already stamped at the bottom. Her name sat above them, written in her father's shaky hand, not hers. She stood up so fast her chair screeched backward. "No," she said, the word tearing out of her throat before she could stop it. "This isn't real." Across from her, two men stood side by side, dressed in dark, perfectly tailored suits. They looked the same in a way that felt unnatural. Same height, same sharp jawline, same calm eyes, but the air around them felt different. One watched her with quiet stillness, unreadable. The other tilted his head slightly as if studying a puzzle. Her father couldn't look at her. He stared at the floor, shoulders slumped, fingers trembling. The smell of stale alcohol clung to him, mixing with the bitter scent of fear in the room. "It's already done," one of the men said. His voice was smooth, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "The agreement is binding." "Agreement?" Nia laughed, a broken sound. "You sold me." The man who had spoken didn't deny it. The other finally moved, stepping forward just enough to make her instinctively take a step back. He stopped immediately, hands visible at his sides, his expression calm. "We are not here to frighten you," he said. His voice was lower, steadier. "But we will not lie to you either." Two men, one marriage. The words rang in her ears like a sentence being passed. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure they could hear it. If this story already has you holding your breath, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Nia's life has just changed forever, and what happens next may surprise you. The flight to Jeju Island felt endless. Nia sat rigid in her seat, fingers clenched in the fabric of her skirt, watching the clouds drift past the window as if her old life might be hidden among them. No one spoke to her during the journey. The twins, Taeyun Seo and Doyun Seo, sat on either side of the aisle, not touching her, not watching her constantly, giving her space that felt deliberate, that, more than anything, unsettled her. By the time the car gate slid open to reveal the estate, the sky was already dark. Soft lights lined the long driveway, illuminating manicured gardens and a modern house that looked more like a retreat than a prison. Nia swallowed hard. This was where she would live now. Where she would belong. Madame Lin met her at the door. The older woman's eyes were kind, her smile careful. "You must be tired," she said gently, taking Nia's small suitcase. "Come, I'll show you your room." Her room, not their room. Not yet. Nia barely heard the rest of the tour. Her thoughts spiraled, circling the same question again and again. What would happen tonight? Dinner passed in a strange, tense quiet. Doyun tried to lighten the mood, asking Nia simple questions, if she liked tea, if she preferred sweet or savory food. Taeyun mostly watched, speaking only when necessary, his attention sharp and focused on her reactions. Neither of them touched her, not even accidentally. When the house finally settled into silence, Madame Lin led Nia down a long hallway and stopped in front of a wide door. She hesitated before opening it. "This is where you'll sleep," she said softly. The room was large, warm, and softly lit. And in the center of it was one bed. Nia's breath caught. She shook her head immediately. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't do this." Taeyun spoke first, his tone calm. "You don't have to do anything tonight." Doyun leaned against the doorframe, his expression open, almost apologetic. "We just need you to rest. That's all." Her eyes flicked between them, suspicion and fear battling with exhaustion. "Together?" she asked. "Yes," Doyun said honestly, "but nothing more. We promise." Promises meant nothing to her anymore. Still, her body was trembling, her legs weak from the day's shock. She nodded once, sharply, as if daring them to break their word. They changed on opposite sides of the room. Nia kept her clothes on, climbing into the bed stiffly, her back pressed against the headboard. Taeyun lay down on one side, Doyun on the other, leaving a careful space between them. No hands reached for her, no demands were made. Minutes passed, then more. Her breathing slowly began to steady, the tension in her shoulders easing despite herself. Doyun spoke quietly into the darkness, his voice barely above a whisper. "If you need more space, say so." Taeyun adjusted the blanket so it covered her properly, his movements precise and respectful. "Sleep," he said. "We'll be here." Nia didn't realize she had fallen asleep until she stirred sometime in the night, half aware of warmth on either side of her. Both men were still awake, still keeping watch. She closed her eyes again, confusion swirling with something else she wasn't ready to name. Morning came softly. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, and for one disorienting moment, Nia forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back in. She sat up abruptly, heart racing. She was alone. No regret. No pain, only confusion, and an unsettling sense of calm. At breakfast, Doyen greeted her with an easy smile, sliding a cup of tea toward her. "You slept," he said, sounding almost relieved. Taeyun watched her closely. "Did you rest well?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." And that frightened her more than anything else. As the day unfolded, she began to notice the differences between them. Doyen laughed easily, teasing her into small smiles she tried and failed to hide. Taeyun ensured she ate quietly, reminding her to drink water, his care steady and unobtrusive. One felt like warmth, the other like safety. By evening, as the sun dipped low over the estate, Nia realized the truth she had been avoiding all day. Tonight would not be the same as the first, and she didn't know whether she was more afraid of what might happen, or of the fact that part of her was no longer running from it. The second night arrived quietly, almost deceptively calm. Nia stood by the window in the bedroom, watching the lights outside the estate flicker on one by one. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, eyes tired, thoughts loud, heart undecided. She had spent the entire day pretending this night wouldn't come. But now it was here, pressing against her chest like a held breath. The door opened softly behind her. She didn't turn around, but she knew which one it was by the sound of his steps. "You didn't eat much at dinner," Taeyun said. "I wasn't hungry," she replied, though her voice lacked conviction. He paused, then spoke again, slower. "Do you want to be alone tonight?" The question caught her off guard. She turned, meeting his eyes. They were steady, unreadable, waiting. "I don't know," she admitted. That was the truth, raw and unfiltered. She didn't know if she wanted distance or closeness, fear or comfort, control or surrender. The uncertainty itself exhausted her. Doyen appeared in the doorway moments later, his presence lighter but no less intense. "We can sit," he said casually. "Talk, or not talk, whatever you want." She looked between them, her pulse quickening. "If I say no, you won't be angry?" Doyen's smile softened, losing its playfulness. "Nia, if you say no, we stop. If you say maybe, we slow down. If you say nothing, we still wait." Taeyun nodded once. "You lead." The power in those words unsettled her more than authority ever could. They sat on the bed, fully dressed, leaving space for her to breathe. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken thoughts. Finally, Nia broke it. "I've never shared a bed with anyone before." Doyen's voice was gentle. "We know." "And definitely not two people," she added, her hands twisting together in her lap. Taeyun shifted slightly closer, but not enough to touch. "Then tonight doesn't have to mean anything more than what you allow." Her breath caught. "What if I change my mind halfway?" "Then we stop halfway," Doyen said immediately. She searched their faces, looking for hesitation, for impatience, for something sharp. She found none. Slowly, cautiously, she lay back against the pillows. The mattress dipped as they followed, one on either side of her. This time, there was no rigid distance. Doyen's arm rested near her shoulder, not touching, waiting. Taeyun lay still, his presence solid, grounding. Minutes passed. Her heartbeat began to slow. Nia turned her head slightly. "You won't rush me," Taeyun answered without hesitation. "Never." Doyen chuckled softly. "We waited this long. We can wait longer." Her fingers trembled as she reached out, barely brushing Taeyun's sleeve. He inhaled sharply but didn't move. That alone sent a strange warmth through her chest. She was used to men taking, assuming, deciding. This was different. This was permission without pressure. Does it hurt? She asked suddenly, the question spilling out before she could stop it. Doyun stilled. Taeyun turned his head, meeting her gaze. Only if you're afraid, Taeyun said quietly. And even then, we don't push. Doyun added softer. We'll be gentle. I promise. She closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. When she opened them again, she nodded. Just once. They moved slowly, deliberately. Every touch was preceded by a question, every reaction carefully read. Nia felt overwhelmed, not by sensation, but by emotion, trust, vulnerability, fear, desire, all tangled together until she could no longer separate them. When she finally whispered, "Stop," everything stopped, immediately, no frustration, no disappointment. Taeyun's hand rested still. Doyun pulled back slightly, his voice steady. Do you want to stop completely? She shook her head, tears sliding down her temples. No, I just needed to breathe. Taeyun shifted closer, his presence warm and solid. Take your time. And she did. When the night finally faded into silence, it wasn't exhaustion that claimed her. It was relief. Relief that she had chosen. Relief that she had been heard. Relief that she hadn't been broken by the crossing of a line she had feared for so long. Morning light crept in gently. Taeyun woke first. He lay still for a moment, watching Nia sleep between them, her face soft, unguarded. Without waking her, he carefully slipped out of bed and moved through the quiet house. He brewed coffee the way Madame Lin had shown him, adding just enough milk. He returned minutes later, placing the cup on the bedside table. Nia stirred, blinking in confusion. What? Good morning, Taeyun said softly. Don't sit up too fast. She did anyway, wincing slightly, his brow furrowed immediately. Easy. The concern in his voice surprised her. He offered his hand, steadying her without pulling her closer than necessary. Drink this. She took the cup, her fingers brushing his. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Doyun appeared moments later, stretching lazily. I see I've been beaten to the heroic gesture. She almost smiled. Later that day, Doyun insisted on taking her out. A proper first date, he declared, already guiding her toward the car. He bought her dresses she'd never imagined wearing, shoes that fit perfectly, jewelry she refused twice before finally accepting. He made her laugh until her chest ached, until the tight knot inside her loosened. That evening, Taeyun walked her through the estate grounds instead. He adjusted her shawl against the breeze, pointed out quiet corners she hadn't noticed before. He spoke about time, about patience, about balance. 2 men, 2 rhythms, and Nia stood between them, confused, guilty, and more alive than she had felt in months. That night, alone in her room, she realized the truth she could no longer avoid. She wasn't trapped anymore. She was choosing. Nia didn't sleep much that night. She lay on her side, staring at the faint glow of moonlight on the ceiling, replaying every word, every look, every moment from the day. The laughter with Doyun still echoed in her ears. The quiet walk with Taeyun lingered in her chest like a steady heartbeat. They felt so different that it frightened her. She had always believed love was supposed to feel one way, follow one path. What she was feeling now refused to fit into any shape she recognized. The next morning, she found Madame Lin in the kitchen, moving slowly, deliberately as she prepared tea. The familiar calm of the older woman cracked something open inside Nia. I think something is wrong with me, Nia said quietly. Madame Lin glanced up, her expression soft but attentive. Sit, she said, gesturing to the chair beside the counter. Nia sat, her hands folded tightly in her lap. I feel guilty, she admitted. One of them makes me feel light. The other makes me feel steady. And I don't know how to hold both without breaking something. Madame Lin poured the tea and slid a cup toward her. You are trying to measure the ocean with a cup, she said calmly. Nia frowned. What does that mean? It means you are asking love to behave like fairness, Madame Lin replied. Love is not fair. It is honest. And honesty looks different in different places. Nia swallowed. So, I'm not wrong? Madame Lin met her eyes. You are human. The words settled deep in her chest, easing something tight and painful. For the first time since arriving on Jeju Island, Nia felt like she could breathe without counting every breath. That evening, she found Taeyun in the study, standing by the window with his hands clasped behind his back. He turned when he heard her footsteps, his expression unreadable as always. "I spoke to Madame Lin," Nia said. He nodded. "And?" "She said I'm trying to make love follow rules it was never meant to obey." A flicker crossed his face, surprise, perhaps, or relief. "She's wise." Nia hesitated, then stepped closer. "I feel different things for you and for Doyun." Taeyun didn't interrupt. He didn't look away either. "With you," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "I feel grounded, safe, like nothing will collapse if I lean too hard." His jaw tightened subtly, but his voice remained steady. "And with him?" "I feel alive," she said honestly. "Like the world hasn't ended. Like I can still laugh." Silence stretched between them. Then Taeyun spoke. "You don't have to choose between peace and joy." Her eyes filled with tears. "What if I hurt you?" "You won't," he said quietly. "Not by being honest." Later that night, Doyun found her sitting on the edge of the bed, deep in thought. He dropped down beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "You look like you're planning an escape," he teased gently. She smiled faintly. "I was planning a conversation." He sobered instantly. "Okay, I'm listening." She told him everything. The confusion, the guilt, the fear of being unfair. Doyun didn't joke this time. He listened, his hand resting lightly on his knee, his attention fully on her. When she finished, he exhaled slowly. "Nia," he said, "if I wanted simple, I wouldn't have agreed to this life." She turned to him, startled. "You don't owe me balance," he continued. "You owe me truth, and you've given that." Something in her chest finally broke open, not painfully, but like a door unlocking. She leaned forward, resting her forehead briefly against his shoulder. He didn't pull her closer. He let her choose the distance. That night, the three of them sat together on the balcony, the cool air brushing against their skin. No one spoke for a long time. The silence wasn't heavy this time. It was settled. "I want to stay," Nia said at last. "Not because I have to, because I want to understand this. All of it." Taeyun nodded once, his relief quiet but unmistakable. Doyun smiled, softer than she had ever seen him smile. "Then we'll take it one day at a time," Doyun said. "Together," Taeyun added. Days turned into weeks, and the rhythm of the estate shifted around her. Nia found herself laughing more easily, sleeping more soundly. She learned how Taeyun took his coffee, how Doyun hummed absent-mindedly when he was happy. She stopped flinching at kindness. She stopped waiting for the ground to give way beneath her feet. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in gold and pink, Nia stood between them again, looking out over the horizon. The memory of that first night, the fear, the disbelief, felt distant now, like a life she had once lived but no longer recognized. She thought of the girl who had been sold with her name written in someone else's hand. And she realized something important. That girl hadn't disappeared. She had transformed. If Nia's journey moved you, if her choice, her confusion, and her courage resonated with you, take a moment to like this story, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps stories like hers continue to be told, and your voice might help someone else feel understood. As night settled over Jeju Island, Nia reached for both of their hands, feeling the contrast she had once feared now grounding her instead. She didn't know what the future would look like. She didn't need to. For the first time, her life felt like something she was stepping into, willingly, and that she knew was enough.
If you enjoy the story, please subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.